Hey guys, and welcome to the Health Spot with Omar, the Alternative Solutions podcast. New followers, new subscribers, thank you so much from our last episode with Dr. Sarah Myhill. What an episode, as I mentioned before. It was a great conversation and talking about the underactive thyroid, and we had such good feedback as well. And actually, we've had quite a few questions as well. So I thought to change it up a little bit, I'm actually going to go through some of those questions because I thought they were quite interesting. So question one, are fruits allowed on keto? I am only asking because there are good vitamins and minerals in fruit and veg. I have a lot of water weight and swollen face. I think this happened because of late night eating and consuming foods high in salt. Well, I think sometimes the answer might be in the question when we could do questions like this. So that might be why. But the question is, can we still have fruit and veg on a ketogenic diet? The answer is, as long as you're in ketosis, then you can eat whatever you like. So question two, iodine drops. So how do we actually consume them? Under drops under the tongue, drops in water and drink, or drops on the tongue? So what you want to do is you want to put the drops in water and you just want to swallow it. So question three, iodine drops and vitamin C, can you have them together? No, you can't, because they clash, they can counteract with each other. Oh, I do it. I have my iodine drops in the morning, so it's just done. I don't have to think about it. You can have vitamin C 2 hours after. So give a 2 hour gap and you can have your vitamin C. Question four is, will I be using levothyroxine for the rest of my life, even if I follow everything in your book? So this is actually a question that came up in my head. Well, the way I think sometimes, like, okay, sometimes the idea is to get off the medication, but sometimes that's not just the case. So the situation with that is, the question is, will I be on levothyroxine for the rest of my life, even after following all the protocols in the book and all the instructions from Sarah? And the answer is probably yes. If someone is much better taking levothyroxine, then it's likely they will be on it for life. So in today's episode, I am with the wonderful Nickita Starck, and she is the founder of the company called When Push Comes to Shove. We talk about self-development before being a parent, working on generational traumas, also talk about functional maternity, and what are the three things that cause illness and what causes problems at birth. Thank you so much for following me. Without further ado, here is episode 23 with Nickita Starck on the Health Spot with Omar. Enjoy. The views and opinions expressed in this episode are those of the guests. They do not reflect my or the Health Spot with Omar podcast personal views or opinions. We do not take responsibility for any ideas expressed during the podcast interview. The information contained in this show is for information purposes only. It is not intended for medical advice, and it should not replace your relationship with your healthcare practitioner. We're good. Okay. Yeah. Well, there's so much suspense. Okay, I think we're good now. Good to go. I love the quote you got at the back. Oh, I love the quotes you got at the back. You could tell us a little bit about that. I would say you are safe, you are loved, and you are wise. And I think you probably put that on your social media as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it's on that I make these bracelets for women that join my course, and it's on there because there's only 3 ingredients for a good birth, and that's it. I'm safe, I'm loved, I'm wise, and I say it to my children every day. Every day, you're safe,
Amazing.
you're loved, you're wise. Um, if you don't feel that, then you will end up going outside yourself. So the important thing is to bring everything back to self and to authenticity and to love. So, but I was running a workshop a few weeks ago called Heal Her. Nothing to do with birth, but to do with women healing generational trauma, childhood trauma, to transcend that and to actually get into a life which is conducive to peace and happiness. So I have that in the background. It's important. You have to feel safe and loved and one.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Words are powerful, aren't they?
What I've found for lots of women that I coach, there's a lot of birth affirmations that go around the birth world. You've got to say this and look at the affirmations you put on your wall, or whether it's to do with trying to better yourself. But there's a massive gap when it comes to personal development when you read about all these affirmations. If your subconscious doesn't believe the affirmation, it's not going to do a thing. So if you're speaking to someone who has so much self-hatred, and then you try and tell them to say, I love myself, their subconscious won't believe that. And it's never going to change the script. So it's important to change the affirmation, get it as close to the one we want as possible. So instead of I love myself, I am willing to learn to love myself. Then the subconscious can go, yeah, all right, I'll work with that.
Amazing. And how many children do you have? Because I remember when we text last, I think you said your children had like exams or something, and then we had to rearrange or something like that.
Yes, my eldest. So I have two. She's 16, and I have a 4-year-old.
Wow. Wow. What's that like then? Because it's quite a big gap between the 16-year-old and the 4-year-old. What's that like?
Well, I lost 9 babies between them, so that's why there's such a big age gap.
Oh, yeah, I remember you telling me now. Well, I'd love to get into that if that's okay.
Yeah, sure, sure. But it's really nice. It's really nice having this age gap. My oldest is fantastic with her, but she's not a babysitter because I chose to have her, not her. She's incredibly helpful. My youngest looks up to her, and it's beautiful. It's very nice. And my eldest, we have like an extended family. So she has 2 half brothers, a half brother and a half sister. I delivered the sister, so my ex's child. But we're really close. We're a good family. Like, I'm very friendly with my eldest stepmom. She's a lovely, lovely woman. Um, yeah, I'm really lucky that we've got such a beautiful dynamic between the separated families. But yeah, and then my youngest is best friends with my eldest half brother.
Oh, interesting family tree and friendship tree as well, isn't it? It's like it starts here and then everyone just gets back into each other.
Yeah, but I'm really, really blessed. I feel really lucky to have such a beautiful dynamic between a broken family.
Oh, tell me about it because I've come from a broken family and it's literally opposite of what we've talked about. So
Mm.
my parents were divorced and it happened when I was like 14. And I've got a younger brother and sister who are like what 2 years, 2 years, 3 years apart. So we're quite close in age. And I think there's a lot of trauma in the mind for all of us. I just don't think my parents handled it well, unfortunately. We're all right now, but it's like I always say to my wife, like, once I got married and I had my own kids, I've only understood now what happened back then is affecting me now.
Yeah. So this is something that I talk about on my workshops and the courses. Like, if a woman wants to train with me to be a birth practitioner, they have to do the inner work first. That otherwise you can't practice it when push comes to shove, because we end up bleeding over people that didn't cut us. And we don't want to bring that into the birth space and bring our trauma into the birth space. We have to be able to respond rather than react. So all the birth keeping candidates have to do the inner work. And it will stay with you through your adult life. But the first step is becoming aware of it. So under When Push Comes to Shove, we have something else called the Unity Project, and that's the whole healing modality. So directed at women. I want to get a heal him thing going on. And I'm speaking to someone about that because I don't think it's appropriate. It comes from me. It should come from a man. Um, but anyway, I'll digress. So when you start to see your childhood wounds, um, we all want this inner peace, right? But the inner peace we're all looking for is under the feelings we don't want to feel. And the Unity Project motto is feel, heal, feel, reveal, and heal. Because we carry this tapestry of stories, these scripts from childhood. This looks like that. And we end up going outside ourselves for salvation, validation. People talk about triggers a lot. Triggers are great. They hold a mirror up to what work you need to do with yourself. And we need to replace this trigger with a glimmer. So instead of going, oh no, I feel really bad, well, sit with it. What people end up doing is soothing, scrolling through social media, you know, picking up a glass of wine, gossiping, blaming. this person did this to me, blah, blah, blah. The soothing is not healing.
It's avoiding this.
Literally, yeah. It's healing is sitting with the really, really horrific pain that you've been avoiding all your life. And what we want to do is we want to get under that. Want to get under the feelings because your feelings will talk to you. They're there for a reason, but this body holds the trauma. You probably don't even realize, like, when you're triggered, what's half the time what this is all about. Your body remembers before you do. But the issue with human beings, we have something called metacognition, which means we are aware that we are aware. And with an animal, for example, like if a deer nearly got hit by a car, they would get to safety and then they would regulate. But we don't do that.
Hmm.
We carry it around.
That's it. We'll just keep going.
Yeah. And it feeds into our adult life and into our relationships. Into like when pregnant women come to me and say, this midwife has made me feel like this. Well, she hasn't made you feel like that. No one can make you feel anything. You're essentially, don't give people the keys to your car if you don't want to crash it. And we get into this victim consciousness. I don't mean an actual victim of a crime or something awful. I'm talking about a victim consciousness where, oh, this will happen to me. And we go outside ourselves because we don't want to sit with the pain. And then it turns into blame. This person made me feel like this. This person did this to me. Well, what do you need to work on? Why are you attracting these narcissists into your life? Why is your subconscious looking for this familiar hell? Because that's another truth that people find very difficult to sit with. We look for it. You'd never think that consciously, but our subconscious will prefer a familiar hell rather than an unfamiliar heaven.
Because that's what
It
comfortable.
Yeah. Yes, it's very comfortable. Oh, I'm used to this. I'm used to not feeling enough. I'm used to having a feeling that I'm going to be abandoned. Well, I'll stick with that. You don't do it consciously. That's insane. So subconsciously, we keep looking for the familiarity because it's more comfortable. And we don't like change. So when we start to do the inner work, it can feel very, very scary. Very
It's the unknown, isn't it? It's the unknown, isn't it? Interesting, because like all the things you say. Sorry, I was just going to say all the things that you're saying. I could imagine anyone listening to this when it comes out, they can relate to someone, at least one person who's exactly like this.
Oh, yeah. We all have, especially women, we have one or all three major core wounds, and that's I'm not enough, fear of rejection, fear of abandonment. And it's mainly to do with childhood trauma. Now, you might watch and think, well, I haven't had any trauma. Now, this isn't like an extreme. We've got like very serious trauma, witnessing a murder, being involved in an accident, something like that, or abuse. But I'm talking about the subtle traumas. So you may have had present parents and loving parents, but the trauma I'm discussing is what happens inside of you as a result to not having your core needs met. So let's say, for example, you had a mum who was there all the time. She didn't shout at you. She wasn't abusive, but she wasn't here present with you. She was always behind the laptop or on the phone because she's trying to avoid her own pain or gossiping with friends. So how can your core need of I matter get fulfilled when you haven't got an emotionally present mother or a father that is constantly away, comes back and then away? And what about if your needs don't matter? When you try and express your feelings, I don't want to do this. And you get told no, you must hug that uncle because it's the right thing to do. And then we move further and further away from our authenticity because we have two choices. We either be authentic as children, we form an attachment. And we form an attachment every time. Because if we don't have an attachment, we'll die when we're little. We need someone to look after us. So when your dad or your mum says, oh, please go and hug him. Please stop doing that in public. It's making me feel like this. You're choosing, right, do I do what my mum says and keep my attachment, or do I stay authentic and express myself? I have the attachment. And then we move further and further away from ourselves. And these core wounds carry into our adult life. And then we see it show up everywhere in the relationships we form, in the bonds with our friends, in our boss. It will show up over and over again. But instead of, I don't like this feeling, is their fault, they made me feel like this,
Mhm.
go into the wound, feel it, because it's there to teach you.
And what are the core needs of every, I guess, child then, is it? Are we talking about children? Because we end up growing up with these core needs or things that we've just obtained from our life? Or is that, what would you call it? Is it core needs? You are safe.
And it's a feel those you love your
You're
wise.
loved, you're wise.
So yeah, so wise is the opposite to I'm not enough. Safe is not being rejected, and loved is not being abandoned. So if you feel safe and loved and wise, you can have your authenticity. You can keep coming back to it, and then that will take the driving wheel, not the outside ego that has developed. Now, when I say ego, a lot of people might think, oh, that means narcissist. No, it doesn't. Your ego is just your thoughts, and your thoughts that identify with who you are. And you form this script. Let's call like an inner script, like an inner dialogue you've got going on within yourself. This person's done that. It means that I've got this qualification, so this means I'm good, or I'm a good girl. When we girls get this a lot, you have to be a good girl. I'm identifying with being a good girl. And I'm not, I'm going to ignore my authenticity, because if I don't show up and do what my mum says, then I'm going to be rejected.
That's exactly what my eldest daughter is going through right now. My youngest daughter is being her authentic self. My eldest, she is literally in the process of listening to parents and thinking that's the right thing to do, rather than actually thinking about what the right action is to do, kind of thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So she's going outside herself, uh, which is essentially what we all do as adults. We go outside ourselves and we look for this thing called happiness. And we look for it in, well, when I get the car, I'll be happy. When I get the job, I'll be happy. When I've got the relationship and I've got the marriage, I'll be happy. Bollocks, will you? Because you're just going to be carrying around this childhood wound. It's going to keep showing up time and time and time and time again. And it might be happiness for a little bit, and it's superficial, but it won't last. It's superficial glimpses of, okay, I'm all right now. But at no point in your life will your ego say, okay, I'm done now. You can be happy. It won't, because your ego is trying to keep you alive. Your ego is trying to keep you safe. And by doing so, it will say things like, right, we get this thing called the upper level limit problem. So maybe you've leveled up in life and you've got a new job, you're really excited. Your subconscious will definitely try and find a way to drag you back down, because that's nice and familiar. We have to consolidate our wisdom and our knowledge, and we have to be aware of our triggers. When we can be aware of our triggers, we can actually move through it. But when we are going through on this autopilot and we wonder why all this stuff happens to us, why our house is an utter mess, why we keep shouting at our children, why we keep attracting narcissists into our lives and think, oh, woe is me, I'm being treated exactly the same again. Well, you'll be treated by a mirror. So however you feel about yourself, that's who will come into your life. And it's a beautiful teaching, because if you actually see these triggers as a teacher for you, go, right, I feel wildly uncomfortable right now. Let's go underneath it. Only then can you change the outside. If you want to see good fruits, you need to change your roots.
100%. And one thing that I have little issue about reflection on this kind of situation is, what I see is, and I've been through it myself, you get referred to like a counseling and you get 6 weeks and that's it. But it sounds like to me, I mean, from my experience, it sounds like this has to be an ongoing learning and unlearning. What do you think? Like, how long does it take? Is it like 6 weeks and it's done, or ideally, I think it would be,
Correct.
it's an ongoing thing, isn't it? You can't just see, like, get into sessions and just speak to someone about it and then they've said, oh, you've healed, but actually it's not the case. And I've heard it time and time again where about how they're feeling and stuff like that. And they said you're done. But I just feel like they're done with the 3 sessions that they've been offered. And then after that, it's just they've been left to it. Actually, even heard people say, I'm cured. Thinking, I don't think you are. Only because actually, I didn't say it. I didn't say it, but I was thinking, or that's not really for. I guess I don't know whether that's for you to say. That's for maybe observers to say, maybe.
Whatever makes them happy. But look, this is pretty nuanced. But so if you're watching, I'm not simplifying a whole realm of psychology. I'm really not. But I have limited time to talk, so I'm going to try and condense what I'm about to say. With many forms of therapy, what happens is you look at the outside stuff.
Yeah.
Problem with your mum, problem with your co-workers, problem with your siblings, whatever it is, and they'll start trying to, well, let's get that off the list and that off the list and that off the list. It's just going to keep coming back in a different form. What we need to do is get to the roots of the problem, the core wound. You know, people can tell me all their story, but within 5 minutes, I can see what the core wound is.
Could you give me a case study?
And if for a case study,
Just like quick.
yeah, sure. Okay, so I had a lady come to me that was sick of her money situation, and she had all these amazing tools. She knew all the stuff like the healing stuff, and oh, I'm just resisting. She was saying all the right things, but it wasn't embodied. And I knew from talking to her, I asked her, well, what do you feel about money? What did you learn about money growing up? Well, that you have to work hard, money doesn't grow on trees. And I thought, right, well, you have a core wound of I'm not enough. Because if you were enough, why would you turn away abundance? And then, talking to her more and seeing what her problems were in her life, I thought, right, so you have a fear of rejection as well. Because if you have money, you think these people over here are going to reject you because you're not a nice person anymore because you have money. You don't need to go through every single trauma. In fact, it can be traumatic to go through every single trauma. But this isn't therapy. What I do, it's not traditional psychotherapy. This is more of a spiritual quantum understanding of pain and suffering. That I'm a massive, massive fan of A Course in Miracles, which is kind of what I teach. And A Course in Miracles basically says, we think we've got thousands of problems, but we've only got one. And that's a disconnect from our higher self, our authenticity.
So true.
And when we remember who we are, when we bring everything back to self, you can use the word God if you want, higher consciousness. When we bring it back to self and our authenticity, life ends up flowing, happening through us, not to us. Think of a pipe and you've got a block in the pipe. You're not the actual water, you're the tap, you're the faucet. So you have to let the water flow through. But because of all these, societal conditioning, childhood trauma, even generational trauma, we have this block and we can't let it flow through. We get in our own way. And it's not just about childhood. So when I talk about generational trauma, there was a study done on rats. And they had a cage of rats, and every time they tried to exit the cage, they left the door open. They gave the rats an electric shock, and eventually they stopped trying to escape. Then those rats had babies, and the babies were put in a separate cage, and not once did they ever try to escape. No one had shocked them. It vibrates on a cellular level. We carry so much trauma, and if we don't do the work, the next generation will suffer. I have one agenda, is to heal myself so my children don't have to. I want them to go through that. And the best thing you can do if you're in the healing journey for your kids is to shine your light. Because monkey see, monkey do.
That's right.
When they're very young,
Yeah. 100%. Like, because I'm more into like the nutritional side because I had a good experience like 10 years ago. So I got into nutrition, and then now like my kids are just basically following the way I live, which is nice to see. Like, well, I was saying in my last podcast episode that I just got a spinning bike because I'm slowly trying to get into the fitness thing because I used to be really fit, and then literally it's like it just stopped. Life happened, everything happened, and then just prioritizing everything. And then it's funny. I got a spinning bike. I've left it in my room in my office, and now the seat is always high up for me. When I get in there, it's always all the way to the bottom because my 6-year-old daughter's riding it because she sees me ride it. And these are kind of things like I want them to see, like, okay, this is what health looks like, or this is what fitness looks like, or these are little breadcrumbs as they're growing up. Because I do feel like, because I've never saw it when I was younger, but when they're young, it's easier for them to absorb, isn't it? They're like a sponge at that age when they're young.
Yeah, and this is what authenticity looks like. We get I'm sure many of you will be familiar with the older generation when it comes to, how to look after a baby. Oh, let them cry, don't let them rule the roost. Jesus, that's like for a baby to become self-regulated, the parents have to do it for them first. It's not like, oh, we'll teach them when they're babies, or you got to cry it out and self-soothe. Why does a child need to soothe? A child just needs to be authentic.
Why is the child
Why
crying
are we
as well?
creating?
Why is the child crying as well? I guess that's the question.
They're expressing their authenticity and they need their mother. A child needs their mother. When the child feels safe and loved and wise consistently, then when you start to see a 5 or 6-year-old getting a bit more independent and they don't want to sleep with you anymore because they feel safe and loved and wise. But when you put a child in their own bed, for example, no, you have to stay there. You have to. You've got to have some independence. They don't feel that. They feel abandoned.
Funny, you s-
They feel on up.
well,
And they feel that they're going to be rejected.
funny do you say that because my 6-year-old last night. So just forget about last night. I'll get into that. So she consistently likes coming into our bed, and she wants to sleep next to me. Like, she's really attached to me, which I'm more than happy about. Um, and she was told that she's not allowed to get into the bed anymore. What did she do last night? She sat on the floor right next to me with a blanket rolled up with a pillow on the floor. What do you think about that?
She needs to sleep with you.
Yeah. Oh, why though?
She Because there's something in her. There's something an inner wound in her. I don't know whether she doesn't feel enough or she feels she's going to be rejected in some way. Children can't regulate their own emotions. They need their parents to do it for them. And until they can do it, look, think of it like this. Up until about 7, 8 years old, let's say we help regulate the children's feelings. We don't snap at them if they start getting angry and crying. We stay calm and we regulate our emotions and go, yeah, you're feeling this. All right, that's fine. Where in your body do you feel it? You don't hit me though. Hit this punch bag or hit this pillow. All right, take your frustrations out. Now we regulate them all the way up to 7, 8. Then they'll be able to do it themselves. But there'll be little things in their minds that'll go, oh, I don't feel safe right now. And they don't know why, but they need us to do it for them. So it doesn't matter what the wound is. They just need to feel safe and loved and wise. That's it. They need to have the parent regulate their emotions because they can't do it. When a child's cortisol levels start going up, they can't regulate it. It just keep going and going and going and going. And we wonder why we have such anxious adults
Mm,
who can't sit still with
that's
ADHD.
right. That's right. And flicking on the phone just to control it or just to hide it, right? The thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So we didn't actually say what you do to the listeners. So, but, but before we get into that, how was the Rebar Pro O'Neill dinner? Because I went to the event the day after.
It was amazing. It was lovely. It was really nice to talk to her. We've since had a couple of Zooms. She's going to be doing some work with me. It's really exciting. She's
Oh,
lovely.
yeah.
Yeah, she's a beautiful soul. It was nice to meet other like-minded people, and it, the energy was just palpable.
No, no, you had two of my guests that were there as well on my podcast. You had Patrick Holford was there and Dr. Jenny Goodman was there. I was like, oh wow, that's quite cool. And you had Ellie Gray and all the rest of the clan as well in it.
Yeah. Yeah, there was quite a few people there from the freedom movement. It was nice. Um, yeah, I had a nice chat with her. She's
Oh,
nice.
amazing, amazing. So, if you could let the listeners know who you are and what you do after like half an hour, 40
Yeah,
minutes.
like, yeah. My name's Nickita Starck, and I am founder of a decentralized, holistic, conscious maternity structure called When Push Comes to Shove. And you think, well, you've just been talking about self development. I'm um, I'm also a big fan of lifestyle medicine, so I'm just doing my PhD at the moment in lifestyle medicine, and I work with almost like functional maternity care. So I think it's important for women to start healing themselves even before they have children. Then they can consolidate their knowledge of physiological birth, how to navigate the system. But what we don't want is those core wounds to show up in midwifery, being referred to social services and being shamed for your choices. We need to do the inside out, not the other way around. And I believe there's only three things in the world that cause illness or problems in pregnancy and birth: toxicity, deprivation, and trauma. And on a level of mind, body, and soul. So let's take the body, for example. Toxicity. Stuff in your body that shouldn't be there. I think you can all guess what I'm talking about as an example. Deprivation. What are you depriving your body of? Is it a mineral? Is it a vitamin? And trauma. Have you been kicked by a donkey? Been in a car accident? That's physical trauma. But toxicity, deprivation, and trauma also operate on a level of mind. So what you depriving your mind of, are you giving yourself enough self-care, self-love? You're giving your time space to unwind and meditate. Toxicity. What toxic people have you got in your life that shouldn't be there? And trauma. This is what I was banging on about earlier. And on the level of soul. So generational trauma, toxicity that we pass down to our kids. You must hug your uncle, even though he's creepy as fuck. Hug him, because it's going to make me feel rejected if he thinks that my child won't hug him, and then I'll be judged and all hell will break loose. It goes through mind, body, and soul. If we address toxicity, deprivation, and trauma on a level of mind, body, and soul, we're halfway there. Just catching it. So anyway, I run this maternity system, and I like the word system, structure, um, where we help women birth alongside the system if they choose to. If they want to have a hospital birth or a birth center, um, or we help them birth outside the system altogether. So some women want to have a wild pregnancy, which means you don't have any medical interaction at all and no medical support when the baby's born. You might freak out when you hear that. There's a journey that gets a woman to that point. 9 times out of 10, it's a horrifically sabotaged birth within the system. Um, that being said, I want to make a statement here because there's a big rise in free birth
Oh,
in
yeah.
2020.
How come?
Massive rise.
Because of me. Like I said, because of me.
It's no, absolutely not. This is what I really want to address. So, women were being forced to give birth alone. They were being forced to give birth wearing masks. They were being, I mean, the system's always been over medicalized, and then it just got ridiculous. So women were like, hang on, no, I'm going to just birth by myself. Thank you very much. Now, it's so important if you do decide to free birth, think about why you're doing it. Is it from fear or love? If it's from fear, rethink. Because giving birth at home just because the other choice is not available to you, you're scared of it, that's not a good reason. That's coercion. And it has to come from a place of love. I trust my body. I trust the physiological process. I've educated myself. I understand what my body is capable of. I know how to nourish my body. And I know that I will reach out for help if I need anything. It has to be from love. I train women to be natural birth practitioners, doulas, birth keepers. We don't do anything medical. We don't give you advice because there's already a system that does that. Also, when you tell women what to do, you're taking away a lot of their journey for them. It's Well, what do you feel you want to do? And then the rest comes, if they say, well, I feel my gut feeling is I want to birth at home, but I don't know enough about it. Then you give them information so they can make an informed choice. But they have to go and do this journey themselves. If someone comes to me and wants to hand their birth over to me, I won't support them because that's not for me. I'm not going to be your validation. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm there to hold space and to love a woman when they're in labor, not to tell them what to do. If you want to have someone tell you what to do, there's a system that offers that. But birth, we have a 77% home birth rate, and the system has 50%. And women, because they go outside themselves all the time and they acquiesce to what someone is telling them to do, again, there's trauma bleeding into decisions.
It's like there's no thought gone into the decision, no? Is that what it is? There's no thought process or like the why?
Well, no, because it's been taken care of. We assume that, well, why would they tell us to do anything daft? Why would they do that? We hand it over, but it's so strange. Like women, they will research the next makeup to buy, their wedding, their clothes. They will spend a fortune. But, oh no, we've got the NHS, that's taken care of. It's not. Definitely not. And I'm not saying you'll never have a good hospital birth because I'm not into dogma. I think women should birth where they feel safe and loved and wise. And if that's in a hospital setting, give birth there. Never give
You
birth.
need to get a t-shirt. You need to get a t-shirt with that at the back, please. Have you?
No, I have on my.
I'll put it in the link, guys. Listeners, I'll put it down below. Do you used to work as a midwife or in the hospital in the past?
I know. I started training as a midwife and then I left.
Okay. Why did you hate it? Is it because the lack of choices available or?
I couldn't work with any autonomy. I, it was a, it was a conveyor belt system. There's no informed choice. I was seeing all these ailments like preeclampsia, placental abruption. I'm thinking this could just be solved with nutrition. Why is this not being taught?
Why isn't it being taught?
It's in the manual. I'm not sure there's much money to be made in healthy people, though.
Don't think so. No, not at all. Not at all. So what are the fundamentals that women who are pregnant that you think they should know before they make a decision going into, well, what they want to do? Is it just what you said earlier, just understanding why you want to do it or how you feel about things and digging deeper?
Before you even get pregnant, dig deep. See what patterns are emerging. See, because before you get into the midwifery system and you've got a midwife who you feel is bullying you, why is this person coming into your life? What wound haven't you healed? So start there. Get your body ready. So it's so important. This is never taught in midwifery. And it actually upsets me because I think we could prevent a multitude of ailments. The correlation between blood volume expansion and protein. So when a woman is pregnant, her blood volume needs to expand by up to 60%. Okay? In order to do that, her liver has to perform 500 metabolic functions. In order for the liver to do that, it needs 100 grams of protein
Wow.
a day. Or at the very least 70, 80, depending on your size. Don't take this as dogmatic. Again, go in instinctively with this, instinctive eating. Don't go with this black and white, oh, I've got to eat this or I'm terrible. Feel into yourself. When you're outside in your head all the time, you're going to feel scared. But when you come back to self and you think, right, I'm instinctively, intuitively eating this, I feel good, then that's fine. But not about any black and white stuff. It's just, it causes more fear. And then when you get in your head about everything, I think, the presence of intelligence without wisdom is dangerous. We have to have balance. So let's take, for example, a very common ailment in pregnancy, preeclampsia. So very, very high blood pressure, the baby has to be born, it's emergency, etc., etc. In your third trimester, If your blood volume hasn't expanded sufficiently, your body thinks it's hemorrhaging. So what it does is starts to draw water out of your cells, compels water. And you get swelling, and your blood pressure goes up, preeclampsia. If you just knew not to get to that point, you had sufficient protein, it is very unlikely. I'm not saying it would never happen, but it is very unlikely it would happen. And then are you putting processed food into your body? Because that's very hard to process. And then that leads toxins, or what I was saying earlier, toxicity, deprivation, trauma. You're not meant to have processed food in your body. And then look at what's going on emotionally around you. Have you got lots of naysayers about your birth plan? Look, and I'll make this very clear. Whether you are planning a free birth, you're going to get judged, or a planned C-section, you're going to get judged. If you're planning to breastfeed, you're going to get judged. And you're planning to bottle feed, you're going to get judged. So, fuck them. Do exactly
You're gonna be fucking
what
out of
you
the way.
want to do. Yeah. If you're relying on outside validation, but if you're going inside yourself and remembering who you are, that's not going to bother you. Just do what you got to do. And it's not to say that if you do the inner work and if you understand the blood volume expansion and protein dynamic, that you're going to have an amazing birth. I'm not saying that at all, because problems arise. We don't really know the full picture. We don't know enough. It's about doing what feels right to you. Stop going outside for validation. Learn from people that know more than you. But what do you feel is the right thing to do? I see high protein, good source of fat, meat is a very good diet to have. That doesn't mean to say that I don't believe that vegetarians can find their own way through this and have their protein from eggs or whatever it is they want. But we need to stop going outside ourselves constantly. Yes, learn the external superficial stuff about nutrition and learn about birth physiology. How if you lay on your back where you give birth, the pelvic outlet decreases by 30%. Learn that. It's important. But however, if you were actually left to get on with it and instinctually birth, there's no way you would lay on your back because your body wouldn't let you. Unless, see, there's always a nip in the butt on the way. If you have a particularly precipitous labor, so the baby's coming very, very quickly, your body will naturally go, okay, I need to slow this down, I need to lay down. But 9 times out of 10, if it's a normal birth, your body will tell you to stand or squat or get on all fours. No, right, it will say, yeah, just don't give your baby as much room as it needs. It wouldn't do that.
Mm.
But again, it's about coming back to self, listening. Most people are not embodied. They're in their head constantly. That's the cause of anxiety. It's the cause of depression. If you just got back to self and under those feelings, listen to them. They're a great teacher. But when you're ready to do it, and if you're willing.
100%. That's right. That's right. Well, when the baby is we've got a pregnant woman and baby's going through pregnancy and the overdue and risks. What do you think about that? Because when the doctor say, "Oh, you're overdue, you might have to get the baby out quicker." I always have a thing about that. I say, shouldn't the baby come out when the baby's ready? Oh yes, you get your flip chart out.
Everyone needs.
Oh wow, look at that! And that was one of my bonus questions. Be able to recommend me a book.
Am I allowed? So, Am I Allowed is written by Beverly Beach, right? She was my mentor. She taught me so much. And now, so she died last February. And I have to write the 6th edition. I was like, oh God, these are big boots to fill, but I'm going to do it. Um, and every penny from this goes to the Beverly Beach Project, which is the When Push Comes to Shove Access Fund. So women who are on a low income and they can't afford private care from doulas or birth keepers, who's taking them to it. And it's all through there. We're looking for funding at the moment. We're trying to turn it into a CIC because we are very low on funds because it's been used so much, which is great. But anyone who knows about fundraising, please get in touch. Right. So you asked about It's stillbirth.
Yeah.
Overdue, right? So I'm gonna actually find the actual specific. So when you are overdue, they will start putting pressure on to get the baby.
Itself, isn't it?
Before I, yeah, it's insanely stressful. Now, before I go into the statistics, did you know that maternity care is only 8% evidence based?
Wow.
8. That's it. Category A. So there's like um category A, good evidence, E, shit evidence. It's only 8% category A.
8%.
Can't bloody find the page there. Yeah, so when you're being told you've got to do X, Y, and Z, you might want to ask them a few questions. So, you've been told you're overdue, or maybe the baby's big. That's this good one. They started scanning women in the 3rd trimester, and they say your baby's massive. You're gonna have to give birth soon. So I would stop and I say, define big. Is it normal for babies to outgrow their mothers? What is big? Shoulders, larger tummy circumference. Yes, it can cause a mechanical problem with the birth. But if you don't have gestational diabetes, and you have a big baby, how tall is your husband? How big were you when you were born? What's normal? Now, because we eat so much shit and processed food, babies do tend to grow a bit larger than we'd like. But if you're eating a healthy diet and you have a big baby and you haven't got gestational diabetes, you have to ask them a few questions. 1, define big. 2, what percentage of babies that are induced end up in the neonatal intensive care unit? And then you need to ask them, what are the benefits and the risks? Just remember, you have to ask them with everything they tell you to do. It's not set in stone. You are allowed to do what you want. Just remember the acronym BRAIN. What the benefits, risks, alternatives, what's your intuition, what happens if you do nothing. It's a really good thing. So they'll say, all right, you've got to be induced. Seldom would a woman question it because they think, well, the doctor's telling me to do that. I have to be. I'm not saying there's never an induction, but again, it has to be a conversation. You need to make an informed choice, not just acquiesce told to do. That's where trauma comes in. Women who are informed and they are in control the whole way through, even if they end up with a C-section, that's the difference between childbirth trauma and no childbirth trauma. Because if they felt in control, even with the C-section, it had the trauma. Whereas if they let birth happen to them and people telling you got to do this, you got to do that, you're out of control, you got a cold wound being triggered, fear of rejection, fear of abandonment, I'm not enough. Of course, it will come to surface again. So they'll tell you to come in for an induction, and there's a few methods they use. They'll usually start off with something called Propess or Prostin, which is a prostaglandin. It's either a gel or like a pessary, and it will ripen your cervix. So your cervix needs to soften and open up. But 9 times out of 10, they will end up using a drug called syntocinon. In America, it's called Pitocin, and it's a synthetic form of oxytocin. It doesn't work like natural oxytocin. Maybe I should back up. Oxytocin is the hormone that facilitates labor. It's very necessary, and it puts you into a beautiful birth bubble. You get this euphoric love. But with synthetic oxytocin, it doesn't work like that. It doesn't reach your brain, but it does blast your uterus over and over and over again with actually strong contractions. So then, often understand speed off and pain relief, which is that you would in a normal labor. And then they might offer you an epidural. They never tell you what's in an epidural. So how can you make an informed choice? 50% bupivacaine, 50% fentanyl.
Fentanyl?
So then, yes, fentanyl. So then you have an epidural, which means you're rendered on your back. You can't move. You can't use gravity to help bring the baby down. Your pelvic outlet decreases by 30%. You're essentially pushing uphill. And then you're not feeling the extra pain of the syntocinon contractions because you've got the epidural, but then it kind of slows everything down. So they up the Synto, then they have to up the epidural. And during this time, not always, but many times, because the uterus has been hyperstimulated, where it will compromise oxygen flow to the placenta, baby goes into distress, and women end up with emergency cesarean or ventouse or a forceps delivery. And then they think, oh, thank God, I was in hospital.
Mm.
But if you were informed that that has started, that that cascade of event has started in the first place, maybe, maybe not.
Mm.
And then we hear all the time, well, I actually needed a C-section because my baby was born with the cord wrapped around the neck. But again, this is lack of information. That's called a nuchal cord, and it happens to 1 in 3 babies. And the umbilical cord is covered in something called Wharton's jelly, and it stops the cord from becoming compressed. So it's perfectly normal for a baby to have the cord wrapped around their neck. And the babies don't breathe through their mouth, they breathe through the umbilical cord. Only if the cord is tight enough or wrapped so many times that it actually cuts off oxygen to the brain, that it does become a problem. But seldom does that happen. I'm not saying there are never dangers and risks. There are risks with hospital birth, just as home birth.
That's right.
But you have to know which one is right for you. Don't let anyone come at you with any dogma. Oh, you should give birth at home. You should have some sun baths, all this hippie stuff. If you want that, awesome. But if you want a hospital birth and you want to make sure your environment is as conducive for physiological birth as possible within a hospital, do it. There's no such thing as you're not allowed. Do what you want. And that doesn't mean to say go against medical advice for fun and the contrary for the sake of it. You have to empower yourself. You can't empower yourself if you hand everything over to other people. Look at both sides. Speak to your midwife, speak to your obstetrician, see what they think. Go away, do your own research, come back and what do you believe? What do you feel is the right thing to do?
Exactly. And there's a
I was told I was high risk.
oh yeah, but did you do your research back then as well? Were you like this back then when you had your youngest?
Oh, I've been doing this for 15 years, so
Ah,
I was like,
relevant.
stop saying boring things. You said you had not miscarriages, you're high risk. So what? I'm in my 3rd trimester, what are you talking about?
Mm.
So we should give birth at hospital. And I was like, no, I don't.
So you did a home birth. You was a second child. You did a home birth. Amazing, amazing. And there's a thing about cutting the cord. Thing about cut. Sorry, there's a thing about cutting the cord as late as possible. Yeah, I've seen some people on social media where they left the cord there until it falls off on its own. So what is the right answer? I guess that's the question that I initially want to ask. But I have a feeling I know what you can say.
Yeah, delayed cord clamping is important. Wait for white, I say. When the cord's gone and the blood is emptied into the baby. Otherwise, your baby's gonna lose a third of its blood supply. And I can't believe I have to say this, but your baby needs its blood supply. Um, if you have it straight away, you're gonna miss out on billions of stem cells. The- What what's the rush? They say there's a risk of jaundice. I haven't worked that out. I can't see the studies that they're talking about.
Yeah,
But
because when we
I've been
cut
doing this for a long
my
time.
second daughter's one, I think they gave us I think the stretch of like 5 minutes or something like that, and I basically 'cause I think maybe I should bit pushed it a bit more, but just let it be. But maybe there's a time of getting in and out. You mentioned earlier, isn't it? Like it's like a conveyor belt getting people in and out of hospital. Is that what it is?
They're very risk adverse. So even if the evidence is very, very crap, they will still follow guidelines because if they get taken to court and they get sued, they have to say, yes, we did this intervention, that intervention, rather than the judge isn't going to say, well, why didn't you let them have their natural birth? They're going to say you did this medication and this medication, and then they're less likely.
Mm.
So it's all about fear, 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 and more fear. Can't
Fear.
kick into
Wow.
it.
I was actually going to get someone on to speak about fear. Can we just touch on fear and like how important it is and how much it actually impacts us to make a decision?
Mm. It's if you're immersed in a fear-based society, forget system, it's
Mm.
going to impact your mental health unless you're very aware of what's happening and you can catch your own thoughts and catch your own fears, come back to self. But you mentioned earlier about not cutting the cord at all. Not to let people know what that's called. That is called a lotus spur,
Mm.
where they don't cut the cord. And
And
it's
that only happens in the household, right? In a home birth, that's the only place it would happen, right? Really, because you can't really
yeah.
no.
No,
Have you?
no. I helped facilitate cesareans that have had lotus spurs. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
No, there are some amazing obstetricians out there who are very loving and understanding. I'm not poo-pooing everyone. I'm not throwing the beautiful people that work in the system. I'm just saying the system itself is the beast. Now, be careful, you'll get chewed up and spat out the other side.
Mm.
What I'm saying is, there are some lovely people. Just talk to them. Have some communication. I would like some motor. What's that? Oh, you don't know? Here's some education. Now, can you help me facilitate that and achieve this? I've even spoken to an obstetrician who allowed a woman to have the curtain down while she was having a C-section and help and let the woman pick the baby up herself out of her tummy.
Wow. Okay, so
Well,
there is a way. There is a way to get around it.
yeah. There's so much beauty in humans. Just don't be afraid. You know, just remember this. Every time you're triggered by someone or you think you've triggered them and they start reacting and they're confrontational, you're not having a conversation with that adult. You're having a conversation with the age of that child when they were first triggered. So you've only spoken to a 5-year-old. Have some compassion.
So earlier you mentioned also the nutrition of the mother. How important is the nutrition of the mother of a growing baby inside? How important is that? Because uh, from what I gather, the general consensus is a mother can eat whatever they want because the baby gets all the nutrients it needs. That's what I've heard um, in doctor surgeries, hospitals. What do you think about that?
What? No, they need to have the most nutritious diet they can. It's so, so important. And also to have the breast milk reserves. That when a woman is breastfeeding, she needs to be nourished. She needs loads and loads of healthy fats. She's going to be burning so many calories when she's breastfeeding. It's so important to be well nourished. You could prevent a multitude of ailments if you understand the need for protein and cutting out processed food and loads of carbs. And yeah, you will become empowered. That being said, do what you want. I'm six
Alimentation, right?
pounds perfect, go for it. Yeah. No one should be shamed.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%, 100%. There's a thing it probably still happens now. Once the placenta is out, people tend to freeze dry it and then put it into capsules and eat it. What do you think about that?
Brilliant idea.
Why is that a brilliant idea?
If a woman, because it's full of billions of stem cells, it's so good. The nutritional value is amazing. You can encapsulate your placenta. You can make smoothies out of it. It's so good for giving your body that extra boost of immunity that it needs after giving birth, so it can help you produce your milk. Um, when women have just given birth and the placenta's been born, if they start bleeding, one really good option is to actually cut a bit of the placenta up and put it in their cheek because it can help stop bleeding.
Wow, that's interesting. So what did the hospitals do with it then? If obviously, well, in modern day, no one's gonna. Well, most people I don't think will be doing that. So what did the hospitals do with it then? Did it sell?
Both they do in America, yeah. In the UK, I think they just incinerate it. It's waste. It's medical waste, but it's an organ and it's your organ, and you're allowed to keep it. In America, I know that they sell them for face creams, and it's $500,000 for a placenta.
Wow. Well, so everyone out there who's got a placenta lying around, you got $500,000 worth of placenta.
Yeah, but that's your DNA. That's your elixir. Keep it.
Oh, wow. That's it. There's another thing. Here's something else to talk about for another time. The importance of sleep and breastfeeding. Like I think the general consensus is that breastfeeding is good. Breast is best.
Mhm.
Not everyone can do it for one reason or another. I understand that. When this is what that I wanted to actually ask you. Actually, one of the main questions is because my wife breastfed our second child, and is there a mechanism in the female body where it's just like my question is what I'm trying to ask is how are females not tired? Like they're doing it and they're exhausted, but they're still functioning. How is that possible? Because when you're breastfeeding,
See,
as you know, like it's you're breastfeeding them whenever they want. You have to be on top like every, could be 10 minutes, could be 20 minutes, could be an hour, and you're exhausted. I could see how exhausted my wife was.
the brain of a woman who has just given birth is incredible. The A woman is she has all these amazing reserves because she has to be on high alert to look after her child and to breastfeed. But this is where it gets interesting. Women who can't breastfeed, they're not making any milk. Look at what's going on. When a woman has a toxicity deprivation score one, was there a very traumatic birth? Have you got negative people around you? How can you breastfeed if you've got cortisol and adrenaline surging through your veins? You're not relaxed enough to breastfeed. You're not It's not about you can't breastfeed, you've probably got terrible support or you've had a traumatic birth. Same with birth. You can't give birth when you've got adrenaline surging through your veins because adrenaline's there to go, don't give birth yet. It's not safe. You're going to be eaten by this predator. So it stops oxytocin from flowing. The same with breastfeeding. You need to feel safe and loved and wise. And the mother needs to be well nourished and she needs support and love. And she needs people to understand that this is a sacred time. She wants to stay in bed for 2 weeks after she's given birth. Let her do it and make it happen. Find some people to help out. Because if you get naked and get the baby naked and bond in bed, skin to skin contact, and you're well nourished and you haven't got a million things going on in your brain, you will breastfeed. It's so unlikely that there's going to be a mechanical problem there. Unlikely. But so many women are failed by the system and they think their bodies have failed them. Their bodies have not failed them. The
Hmm,
system has.
that's it. I'm trying to get Gabrielle Palmer on. Have you heard of her?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I read her book when I was on holiday, The Politics of Breastfeeding, and what is interesting because she was talking about just things in modern day, like the way you hold a baby toy and you bottle feed them. That actually is all you're already training children how to bottle feed at a young age. And I'm pretty sure she said something like the way you hold a baby doll and you bottle feeding them, even though it's a toy, is told the opposite mechanism of how breastfeeding actually works. I remember when my daughter was breastfed, like her face is upwards, it's like that. It wasn't like this. Right.
It's the angle of the dangle. You need to speak to your Cinder when push comes to shove. She's a breastfeeding expert.
Yeah.
Um,
All right. I'll
we
you can
can maybe
and
teach her.
Brilliant. Quick fire round. So I want quick answers. All right, ready? All right. What was your first job?
Singer.
You do some singing still, right? I saw. I remember you sent a YouTube video of a video recently, or I think a couple of months ago. I think.
okay. All right. So the background about that then.
I've always been a singer. I still am. I'm still a musician. I used to write for Sony. I just love music. I'm just obsessed with it. I wrote a song called Breathe Again to spread awareness of when push comes to shove. There's loads of midwives and mamas in the video. Gorgeous verse. Watch it. It's Nickita, Breathe Again. Yeah, just wicked passionate. Since I was a kid. I love music.
Brilliant, brilliant. Chicken or fish?
Chicken.
Smoothies or vegetable juice?
Moody.
Favorite holiday?
Oh gosh. Ibiza. So Ibiza with my children.
Hope that they were back by 3 a.m.
Went to the nice crane park there.
If you could give everyone a drug, what would it be? If you could give everybody a drug, what would it be? Ayahuasca. Nice. Have you ever tried it?
Yeah.
Okay, so did you go to Costa Rica to do it, or?
Not talking about that. Not.
All right. What advice would you give to your younger self?
You're safe. You're loved. You're wise.
Nutritional supplements you recommend for pregnancy?
Head to tail. Liver. Fantastic.
What do you think about folic acid tablets? Because there's a bit of a hoo-ha, I want to say. It's like, oh, it should be methylated. It doesn't matter. What do you think about that? Because there are people in the first trimester, they're saying that, oh, the doctors recommend folic acid tablets. Any
No.
thoughts on that?
Folate. You need folate. Folic acid is not found anywhere. They do I'm not saying you're wrong. They do recommend folic acid. Folic acid is not found anywhere in nature. Folate is what you need. The problem is, and I don't know, correlation isn't causation, but we are seeing a lot of tongue ties, and folic acid helps with the midline develop the baby. So we are seeing a huge correlation with folic acid in tongue ties in babies.
Right. You may have had this question before, but I've just twisted it a little bit. So you're on your deathbed, but you have one last meal to pick. What would it be?
Mine
I
and
know.
curry.
Say that again.
Mine and curry. My nanny's
Nice.
curry.
Nice, nice. 3 tips for someone who wants to get into home birthing.
As a pregnant woman or as just like a facilitator?
Oh, good question. I'd say as a pregnant woman.
Start out when push comes to shove. I have a Substack. I have a blog, Nickita Starck Substack. There's so much free information. Check out my YouTube channel. Check out my Instagram. There's tons of information. And there's loads of other elements out there that I promote on a regular basis on my Instagram page. So start educating yourself, understanding physiology. Or get this, get this. Am I allowed? It's the most important book you'll pick up while you're pregnant.
Amazing. I love books, and I always ask the question, what books do you recommend? And I'm definitely going to push that one. And the last question I always ask is, what does health mean to you?
Health is, it means everything, doesn't it? If you haven't got your health, what have you got? It means being at peace on mind, body, and soul. And it gives you freedom. It gives you the opportunity to swim downstream instead of against the current. If you've got an invigorated body, then you're halfway there to sort things out in your mind, and then soul, everything.
What a great way to end. Thank you so much, Nickita, for your time. We finally got there. I know we were trying to sort this out, but for one reason or another, it is what it is. Where can everyone find you?
When push comes to shove.co.uk. Follow me on Instagram, when.push comes to shove. And I've just got a new Instagram for the personal development. It's just Nickita Starck Official. I'm on Facebook, Nickita Starck, and I'm on Substack, Nickita Starck. Reach out. You can WhatsApp me. Just go to the website, when push comes to shove.co.uk. Just click the WhatsApp button and have a chat. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.